Santiago Calatrava is a world-renowned architect, engineer and sculptor. As both engineer and architect, his work takes materials like concrete, glass, and steel beyond normal bounds. Santiago Calatrava was born in Valencia, Spain on July 28, 1951. In 1968, at the age of 17, he began his schooling in an art school at Valencia. After just 1 year, he switched to architecture school at the Escuela Técnica Superior de Arquitectura de Valencia. He also did postgraduate studies there in urbanism. After 5 years studying architecture, he went on to study civil engineering at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. After 4 years of engineering school, he continued his study as a doctoral student at the same school. His thesis was entitled "Concerning the Foldability of Spaceframes." In 1981, Calatrava began his professional work practice by opening an architectural and engineering office in Zurich. His first realized project was the Jacquem factory in 1983 in Münchwellen, Switzerland. His second office was opened in Paris in 1989. In his almost 20 years of practice, he has won countless awards, including the 1992 Gold Medal of Institute of Structural Engineers and the 1987 Auguste Pierret UIA Prize. The objective of this research and assignment is to analyze how is that Calatrava works with 7 elements that we have been studying during our English course, which an architect must consider in order to build refined and sustainable architecture. First, we have light, as one of the most important aspects architects must consider, if not the most important of all, because of what the father of modern architecture, Le Corbusier, once said, that the architecture is the result of the play between the forms on the space and light. An architect must be able to control and manipulate light in order to get illuminated spaces able to captivate the spectator. Thanks to the great craftsmanship Santiago Calatrava has on the use of great construction materials like concrete and steel, in addition to his knowledge of engineering and structures, he has been able to create a translucent architecture with lots of openings on the ceiling and with lots of windows. As we can see on his Oriente station in Lisbon, Portugal, that efficiently allows the light inside the building, creating the feeling that the architecture is more like a translucent skeleton which allows the light inside and the boundaries between what's inside and outside building and its exterior fuse in one. By looking at most of his work, we can take a conclusion on the texture and color. We can see that Calatrava has a great preference on really smooth surfaces, painted in white. I think that this is because it has a great effect on the spectator, because it has the look associated with pure forms, and I think that architects usually pursue to make very pure, clean buildings. But Santiago Calatrava just takes this concept to the next level when he uses concrete with this natural smooth texture and that white tone on the Auditorio de Tenerife, located on Tenerife, Spain. Because of that smooth, spectacular form, this building looks more like a smooth ceramic sculpture than a building. This has to do with the fact that when he was young, Calatrava had a preference on the plastic arts more than on architecture, although later on in his life he decided to become an architect. This wasn't the end of Calatrava's artistic desires, because he still do sculptures and paintings. Now we're going to talk about how is that this architect deals with the acoustic in his buildings. We have to mention that Calatrava have dealt with certain projects that represent a true challenge in terms with dealing with the noise refers, like train stations, libraries, and even airports like Lyon Saint-Exupéry Airport Railway Station. Although this building has the skeleton building style, it seems to be a soundproof because you cannot hear the airplanes inside it. Another challenge this architect had to deal with is the fact that trains at 300 miles per hour has to pass through this building when they are traveling to France without making scales on the station, just passing by. And it is great how the Hunnell Tunnel Calatrava made for this purpose absorbs the sound produced by the train. And this is why we can say that Calatrava must be a true master in acoustics. Another proof is that Calatrava has made some music halls and conference rooms which needed complicated acoustic planning in order to ensure that those spaces accomplish their formal purpose. The rhythm is of great value for architects because it is the way that architects can modulate important things like disposition of structures and the look of the facade. As a great architect, Calatrava has the ability to generate great rhythm in their buildings, and we can say that he has the preference on the repetition of straight lines and introduce the spectator to the notion of lines that fuse and disappear on the horizon, creating virtual infinite spaces. We can see this modulation on the Ciudad de las Artes y de las Ciencias, on Valencia, Spain. As a complex, Calatrava had to make all the building of the complex correspond to its neighbors on its look, and that was accomplished by using similar rhythms and materials between them. Another very important element that can be determined how a building looks like is the circulation, because the way that the people move through the building can even determine the disposition between the points of interest inside of it. Calatrava itself have mastered both circulation on the horizontal and vertical plane. Calatrava is well known for being a master, especially on the horizontal circulation, because of its bridges. Calatrava is a genius on connecting the land with his amazing bridges, made of steel beams and wires. And we can see a great example of vertical circulation on the turning torso on Malmö, Sweden. This impressive building of great height stands amazingly with its twisted form. Finally, we have the space and the scale. This is the relationship between the space created by the architect and the human being in terms with proportions of length and dimension. Let's recall that the architecture is created in order to serve as a shelter for the people, and that's why that the elements which constitute it have to be in proportion with the measures of the parts of the body of a standard person. Usually, Calatrava works with huge proportions, but in the Zurich Law Library on Zurich, Switzerland, has a more intimate proportion more fit to the human scale, proper for setting a more intimate atmosphere, proper of a library which a reader needs to concentrate. So, in conclusion, we have to say that Calatrava has taken his place on history as one of the greatest architects of our times, and this is because he is a man that has studied a lot and has the combination of abilities and knowledge that allows him to create architecture capable of really amaze the spectator. I haven't seen a Calatrava building face to face, but I am truly amazed by the pictures of the buildings. In addition to